Wylock here, welcome back. I think sewers are an interesting location for a D&D adventure. They're narrow, they're constrained, there's not a lot of open space, so it creates some interesting combat situations. Also, the fact that it's right beneath a city creates a lot of design opportunities for you as a DM. This tavern has a secret route into some area that they need to get to, that kind of thing. It also creates opportunities for the players to surprise you. So, let's make some modular sewer tiles. The dimensions of the foundations for these tiles will be identical to those for the original dungeon tiles back in the first few episodes of the series. I'm going to take a moment here to give a few extra tips on cutting circles. So for the tiles that are a quarter circle, or a corner, it is easiest to make them in batches of 4. Using your compass with a radius of 2.5 inches light, draw a perfect circle. Now draw a line through the center dot that your compass needle made in order to perfectly bisect the circle in half. Now we have 2 perfect half circles, but we need quarter circles. This means we need a line that is perfectly perpendicular to the one you just drew. To achieve that, set your compass needle on the circle where it intersects the line. Widen the compass so that the drawing end is beyond the center. Doesn't matter exactly where, as long as it's beyond the center. Now draw an arc, as shown here. Now ensure you do not change the compass setting and repeat this process on the other side of the circle, as shown. You'll see that the 2 arcs intersect each other in 2 places. Draw a line between those 2 intersections, and you have cut the circle into 4 perfectly equal quadrants. When making modular tiles, this precision is very important. For these sewer tiles, there's a shape we haven't done before, which is a rounded dead end. Here's how to do them. Measure out a foundation that is 2 3/8 inch wide by 2 7/16 inch long. Now mark the width in half, so 2 3/8 divided by 2 makes 1 3/16. Measure down this line again by 1 3/16 of an inch. And set your compass to that same dimension. Draw a half circle as shown here. From here, cut out foundations and hot glue on some chipboard walls as we talked about back in the first 6 episodes. Remember that the walls are 3/4 of an inch tall. For convenience, here are the foundation dimensions with some minor tweaks to illustrate these sewer tiles. Apply corrugation cladding. For the floor, I use dollar store foam board, just as in episode 20. Let's start with a hallway tile. After a lot of experimentation, I determined that a good width for the aqueduct in the middle of the tile was 3/4 of an inch. Now half that is 3/8, and we have chipboard wall that is a 1/16. So if a normal full square is 1 1/4 inch, then the remaining width we have left for the foam board must be 13/16 of an inch. So cut 2 foam board pieces that are 2.5 inches long and 13/16 wide. Texture them however you want. Note that I want to preserve a gridded look, so I start with a single line going across the middle, and then cobblestone after that. Anyway, hot glue them in as shown. Next we'll do a single wall tile. There would be 3 pieces of foam board. The large one next to the wall is identical to what we just did, so repeat that. The other 2 will be placed on the outer corners. Now there's no walls there, so we gain back 1/16 of an inch. and therefore these two pieces must be 7/8 of an inch squared. How about a field tile? Same principle. 4 pieces, each of them 7/8 of an inch squared, and placed at the corners. Now the trickier ones. For the rounded dead end, begin by drawing out exactly what you did for the foundation. But we also need to cut out the aqueduct. So measure 3/8 off of the center line. Root your compass at the exact same spot and adjust it down to a radius of 3/8 of an inch. Draw the aqueduct as shown. Cut it out with your crafting knife. Go slow with a fresh blade, and you should be able to do all the cuts in one pass. Again, texture the foam, and again, I recommend you start with the grid lines. Lastly, the quarter circles. Again, set your compass at 2.5 inches light, just like the foundations. Draw a circle, just like the foundations, but draw 2 more circles within it, with radii of 7/8 of an inch and 1 5/8 of an inch. Then use the same trick we talked about earlier to draw a perpendicular line and make quadrants. For cutting out, I recommend that you cut the quadrants first and then the circles second. Keep the innermost and outermost pieces, as shown here. Texture them and hot glue to the tile. Now, just as we did in episode 14, apply hot glue to the aqueduct and tease it with the nozzle of the gun to create the look of flowing sludge. Now paint them up. Here's how I do it. Base in black. Sponge medium gray onto all surfaces except the aqueduct. Mix up equal parts medium gray, true yellow, and true green to get a sort of olive drab kind of color. Sponge this olive color on each tile in just a couple random spots, including the walls. Paint the aqueduct flow with the olive color, and while still wet, work in a couple of streaks of neon green. Let dry completely, and then lightly dry brush the cobblestone only with white. Finally, apply a glossy varnish or lacquer to the aqueduct flow only. Okay, here's a small sample sewer dungeon. All of my dead ends and turns are rounded instead of corners because it sort of hints at the tubular nature of a sewer. Normally it would be a half pipe type of shape, but the math to make a half pipe wrap around a corner is beyond me, and it's certainly beyond my crafting ability. So here we can put in some spiral stairs from episode 15 and a couple of heroes, and then we'll move one to a space just to see what that looks like. As you recall, these don't actually fit on the spaces, but they're big enough that the miniature doesn't tip. So you got to give up some room for the aqueduct, and we accounted for that with the wall thickness. So there you can see the miniature still does fit. Another popular denizen for a sewer is of course the Otyugh, so here's one. 2-inch base, large monster. Of course, our usual doors that we made that fit onto our 1/4-inch walls will not work here, but trade-off you make. I mean, the aqueduct feature is there, and you've only got so much room. So the usual 1 1/4 inch grid is preserved here. It's just that the spaces are, the middle of them is missing instead of the edges. Here's a Kuo-toa, which you might also expect to find in a sewer. And here's a little trick: if you're short on pieces, just put in a straight stairway as an exit. No need to make a special stairway tile. You just do an insert. If you like the miniatures, check out episode 9. I am Wylock, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.